Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Laras Septiani, 8th semester from English Department, Teachers Training and Education Faculty from Pekalongan University. On this occasion, I would like to present my research entitled Gender Equality in Bahasa Inggris Textbook published by PT Penerbit Intan. Then we will go to the first slide. Okay, in the first slide, there is the introduction. Gender is a differentiator created by society, while sex is something that has become human nature. According to Helen, in 1999, on page 563, gender is defined as a cultural concept, so there is a distinction in the character, behavior, mentality, and emotional characteristic among men and women in society. However, lately, people often misunderstand the concept. Gender is considered as nature, not interchangeable human beings. For example, childcare, cleaning home, and cooking. This difference is commonly referred to as gender equality. Gender equality is the view that all people, both men and women, should receive equal treatment, and there should be no discrimination based on their gender. Okay, next is the research method. In the research design, this research used a descriptive and qualitative method to analyze. And then for the data takes from dialogue, paragraph, and sentence that contain gender inequality. And the data source takes from English textbook by PT Penerbit Intan published in 2020 from 10th grade students. And then for the data collection, it used documentation, and the techniques of analysis data are data reduction, data display, and conclusion. Then we will go to the finding and discussion. The first is construction of narrative text material for 10th grade students. There are three aspects for construction of narrative text material. The first is social function, the second is generic structure, and the last is language feature. But we will go to the social function first. The social function for narrative text is to entertain or amuse the reader. But the narrative text from Bahasa Inggris textbook contains so many gender equality issues, like how women's character are described, the behavior of women who are not good, the mentality of women who are weak, and the emotion of women who get angry easier. This is not a good thing for students because it will influence gender inequality in students' mind unconsciously. And then, the second is generic structure. There are three structures. The first is orientation, then complication, and the last is resolution. Orientation is the introduction of the story, like the setting of the story, the place of the story, and the introduction of the character from the story. But there are some stories from Bahasa Inggris textbook where introduced the female character has greedy nature. There is also a story that introduces the female character as a spoiled and selfish person. And then complication is the problem that occur in the story. In this part, there are stories from this textbook have problems caused by women. And then resolution is the solution for the complication that occur in the story. In Bahasa Inggris textbook, there is a story that tells the solution of the problem should involve the life of woman. And the last is language feature. In the language feature, there are some aspects. The first is by using past tense, and then adverb of time conjunction, and the last is action verb. In this case, there is no deviation in female character except in the action verbs. The action verbs used by the female character in the stories from Bahasa Inggris textbook have a bad meaning in the sentence. As in the story on page 85 about Princess Kuning, it is explained that Putri Kuning fell and her head hit a stone. She then died. The story on page 86 about Putri Kemarau also explained that the princess plunged herself into the river. Then there is also a story from activity 14 on page 94 shows that the action verbs of cook is identical with the woman. The sentence explained that she could cook bread. And then we go to the second finding and discussion, which is gender equality issues that is shown in narrative text. The first is from the character. Many female characters here aren't explained in detail. They are only used as a complement in the story. Even the pronoun he is more mentioned than she. And then for the behavior of the female character in several stories is described as a cruel woman who asks and demands many things from a man. And then the mentality of a woman in this story from the textbook is described as weak person who have no resistance against men. And then the last is emotional. Their emotion in several stories is depicted as a person who get angry easier. And then we will go to the conclusion. Based the result and discussion of research with descriptive qualitative method, it can be concluded that there are still gender equality issues contained in the construction of narrative text from Bahasa Inggris textbook published by PT Penerbit Intan Pariwara 2020 for grade 10 students, which is detrimental to women. It can be seen that some stories introduce the figure of women have bad traits and they also cause a big problem. Even to solve the problem had to sacrifice the woman. There are also action verbs that have bad meanings used for woman character. Besides that, the placement of women's character is unimportant. They are only considered as complementary characters in a story. They even serve as a gift for contests. Their behaviors are also bad who like demanding and asking a lot of things from men. They are greedy and material girl. Mentally, women characters are weak, passive, and just do what men say without any resistance. Emotionally, they are also described as a grumpy person. For the suggestion, the first is for the researcher. This research gives the preliminary information for the next researcher. In this research, the researcher only shows a small part about gender inequality that detrimental women, so it needs more extensive development on this issue. This is intended to increase knowledge and insight. The second, for the school and teacher, it is expected to be more selective in choosing textbook which does not contain gender equality issue, so that does not produce an educator and student who like differentiate gender. And the last is for the readers. It is expected that they can understand what gender equality is and be aware how important to put women and men in the same position in society. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you for your time and your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.